All right, so all week we have been hearing stories of the anti-Israel protesters making ridiculous demands. At Columbia, well, the protesters there requested, quote, basic humanitarian aid, which actually meant that they wanted food and drinks delivered to them while they were illegally occupying a campus building. Over at UCLA, protesters had a whole list of stuff that they wanted people to send them, including, let's see, vegan and gluten-free food, rain ponchos, knee pads. And tonight, according to reports at Columbia, well, the student editors of the Law Review, they are now asking to have their final exams canceled and for everyone to be given a free pass on their grades. Why? They had to witness the police action to end the protest, and it was too traumatizing. They were triggered. Kind of amazing that they were not equally triggered by the horrific evil and events of October the 7th. You know, the murders, the rapes, the torture, the kidnapping of even young babies, even decapitating of young babies. Here and now, Senator Tom Cotton. Senator, great to have you back. Thank you, my friend. Am I wrong in believing that the U.S. Supreme Court weighed in on the issue of student loan forgiveness as it relates to Joe Biden?
No, Sean, you're not wrong at all. They said last year they couldn't do it, and Joe Biden immediately said he's going to start doing it anyway. And, you know, we've been around long enough. We can remember Democrats were always accusing Donald Trump of disobeying court orders or taking other authoritarian steps, and he didn't do any of that. But it's Joe Biden who, for instance, is disobeying Supreme Court orders, finding new ways to reward his would-be voters, trying to lock up his chief political opponent by weaponizing the legal system. And that means that some of these fanatics and pro-Hamas sympathizers and little Gazas all across America could be eligible to get their student loans canceled. That's why I've introduced legislation with several of my colleagues in the Senate, the No Bailouts for Campus Criminals Act, that would say if you've been arrested and convicted of crimes related to this mob action on campus, the federal government is never going to bail you out from your student loans.
So basically, you're telling us that the president is lawless. He's defying a Supreme Court decision. He's not enforcing the laws as it relates to our borders. He's allowed in over 10 million unvetted illegal immigrants, many from our top geopolitical foes, including Iran, Syria, Egypt, and Afghanistan, and Russia and China. And so he only picks and chooses which laws he wants to enforce, which court orders he wants to abide by. Is that how it works in our country? Because I was taught otherwise. And why do I believe that if I ever did the same thing, that I don't think I'd get away with it?
No, Sean, it's pretty certain you wouldn't. And again, this is what Joe Biden and liberals have accused Donald Trump of for the last 9 years. But when Donald Trump lost a court case, might have upset him, but he followed the court case. Joe Biden didn't just disregard the Supreme Court last year. He openly and joyously said that he was going to defy them, that he was going to find a way to pay off his would-be voters. And Sean, I think there's a link between that kind of accusation that's just false against Donald Trump, which you see on campuses today. For 9 years, you know, liberals have fantasized in their own mind that somehow their brave resistance was going to stop fascism from arriving in America and that Donald Trump was a latter-day Hitler. In reality, Sean, what we see on campus have been nascent pogroms, exactly the kind of things that the Nazis did to Jews in the 1930s. And the liberal silence or even celebration of these little Gazas on campus tells us exactly what they would have actually done in Germany in the 1930s.
So your bill is called the No Bailouts for Campus Criminals Act. Here's a little itsy-bitsy problem we have. In New York, they have no bail laws. In New York, most of the people that got arrested the first time, they were all released and their records expunged. Most of them basically got the equivalent of a parking ticket, even people that took over Hamilton Hall at Columbia. There won't be any criminal prosecutions. Alvin Bragg was very, very clear in saying, well, I'm not sure if anybody's going to get charged here. He's too busy trying a case from 8 years ago about a record-keeping error of the Trump Organization, even though the statute of limitations had passed and the judge in the case donated to Joe Biden and may have a family financial benefit if, in fact, that story is accurate. Does that sound like American justice to you?
No, no, Sean, it doesn't. But it does sound like what you could expect from a crooked hack like Alvin Bragg. But I can tell you this, even if Alvin Bragg and other liberal DAs and mayors don't want to bring charges, some of what we've seen on college campuses lately could violate federal criminal civil rights laws, subjecting Jewish students to harassment or even assault. And there is a federal role to play here. Now, I don't expect Joe Biden to do that. But in January, when Donald Trump is president again, the Department of Justice and the Department of Education should investigate these potential crimes. They should certainly investigate the universities, whether or not they're upholding their obligations to protect Jewish student civil rights. A lot of these universities have a lot of money at risk coming January when Donald Trump is president again.